Okay, so we are the Flex Youth and Community Group, and today we have the Mayor and Deputy Mayor joining us for a really, really special interview. So, we decided to ask our young people some questions and fire them over to you guys and see how you can kind of answer some of those questions that they had. But what we wanted to find out from you is a little bit about yourself. So I'll ask the Mayor first of all. Would you like to introduce your name and where you're from and maybe where you grew up, just to give a bit of background to our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Alan Davis. I'm from Basildon, lived in Basildon all my life.
Hey.
Brilliant. I was born in Billericay Hospital before Basildon Hospital was built, actually, so that's how old I am. And I've got two children and two stepchildren, and I am work in a local school as a teaching assistant. Nutshell.
Amazing. A local guy. That's what we like to hear. And yourself, the Deputy Mayor?
So I'm Victoria Joseph, and I have been living in Basildon for the past 6 years. I wasn't born in Basildon.
Okay, we can't all be perfect.
I grew up in northwest London, and I have a great passion and heavy background with young people, and a huge part of the reason why I became a counsellor was actually because of young people, because I've worked with them for so long, and that's pretty much me in a nutshell as well.
Amazing. So I just kind of want to know, could you guys walk me through like a day in your life? Like, what does that look like?
As a teaching assistant, I specialise working with SEN children at James Hornsby, but specifically within the English department. So okay. I am in all the English lessons, as many as I can get to, considering my timetable. And I normally sit with the SEN kids and help them work through the issues and help them to concentrate, help them to study harder, and help them with their work and generally. So that's what I do 9 to 5 as it's 8 to 4 really, isn't it? But as mayor, I go to charity events, lots of civic events as well. I've been to a number of civic events with other mayors in Essex, where we sort of welcome into the community in lots of church services. But also I do things like Basildon Pride. I was at the front of the march waving my banner with Basildon Pride, and some of the more formal occasions, if a VIP visits, then as the King's representative of Basildon, that's a big responsibility, but if there's a more formal occasion, then I'm there in my robes and chain and I welcome them, etc. And it's an honour to be at the D-Day celebrations, and of course got Remembrance Sunday coming up, where I'll be in St Martin's Square. There's lots of things I do, I'm really enjoying it. It's fantastic.
Don't know how I forgot to add or forgot to mention that I am of a Nigerian background. So, for you young people out there that are Nigerian, hello.
There's a bit of a debate, isn't there? Nigerian or Ghanaian jollof?
If I'm to disappoint, I don't even like jollof rice.
All right. I'll let you carry on.
Day to day for me is, outside of being a deputy mayor, I'm a business analyst, and I work with businesses to analyse their business, bring together requirements, have a lot of meetings during the day. Then, as deputy mayor, pretty much wherever the mayor could not attend, I would step in and again welcoming people, talking to people, interacting with people, a lot of charity events and a lot of meet and greet, and like you said, Remembrance Day is coming up, and yes, D-Day was a special day as well.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And we've got quite a few other events coming up, like for example Black History Month is coming up, and that's obviously something I'm definitely going to be there, and I think being a deputy mayor is just, it's nice to work alongside the mayor, especially when you actually get along with the mayor. It just makes the job a whole lot easier. So, and me and Alan, we just communicate. He's like, Tori, you're going to go to this one? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go to this one. I was like, I don't think I can go to that one. Can you go to this one? It's just nice. It's a seamless communication that we have. So, yeah it's very easy and straightforward.
I think we can all take a little bit of a leaf out of your books in terms of the seamless communication. Obviously, as an organisation, I love to hear it. So we'll definitely be picking your brains on that at a later date. But also what I wanted to say, Alan, the work that you do in schools as well, it really struck with me the fact that you are the Mayor of Basildon, which is obviously a recognised role. You guys are both in very, very recognised roles. And something that I said before about young people seeing themselves.
Yeah.
The fact that you're in the school from 9 to 5 or 4 to 8, or vice versa, get your numbers right. It's been a long week. But the very fact that you're in the school, but the kids might recognise you outside of that as being the mayor, that means that the kids that maybe you're seeing or are passing you in the corridors, they know that they can aspire to be in those positions. And I think that's really, really important for us as a youth organisation, just to kind of take that moment just to inspire these young people that they can get to these positions which are more senior, you know. And I think that's really, really important. And for both of you, in terms of representation, we're trying to get up there, you know. We're trying to get to these places where young people can see themselves. And I think you've both placed yourself in really, really good places that when you guys actually get to meet our young people, they're going to just want to be you know, they're going to want to be like you and understand that actually great things are possible as well for them, from the backgrounds that they come from and the areas that they come from as well. So it's really heartwarming for me to hear more about you guys in depth and just sort of think about how we can apply that vision to our young people as well. And it's sticking with me, the idea of walking along the corridor and thinking, yes, there's the mayor, Mrs. Deputy Mayor. Like, that's really, really cool. That's really, really cool.
Exactly how they would say it as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you guys are like the people right now. You guys are the guy right now.
I could definitely understand what you're saying, because when I used to work I didn't mention this before, but I used to work with young people in Pru's, and amazing. I mean, you should know what it's like working in a Pru.
I love them kids.
But the funny thing is, I actually enjoyed working with the Pru more than I did in the mainstream. And there's something about me, I like working with kids that have challenging behaviour, because I just see them as a protege. Like, you're my little protege, I'm going to work on you, and I'm going to prove everyone wrong that
absolutely
you can actually reach your potential, because everyone just sees them as badly behaved kids, but very few people take time to really unpack what's really going on.
And sometimes it's those smaller groups and that centred, that young person centred work, isn't it?
Yes.
That when they're out of the mainstream setting sometimes and they're in these smaller groups, you can actually get to know that individual and learn how they learn.
Yes.
And I think if we all understand that young people, they come with stories behind them, don't they? They come with challenges, stories, trauma, and all of these things. You can really pick that apart and actually show them that it's not broken. There's Chinese pottery, isn't it? When it's broken, they pour gold into it, and it makes this beautiful, beautiful.
Exactly.
So I think that's definitely that's a good one for me. So, like the so-called naughty kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So some of these kids that I've worked with in the past, obviously I'm not in that role anymore, but so funny how, because obviously I'm from Northwest London and I did a lot of my teaching around Northwest London, so I don't know how news flies so fast, but I was in the area like 2 weeks ago to see my dad, and I drove past Harlesden, which is not too far from Neasden, where I actually grew up. And I saw a couple of the kids, and they're like, "Oh, miss, like, I heard you're doing some mad things."
Miss is on a madness, you know. Hey.
What do you mean? And he's like, "Miss, like exactly how you said it. It's like, are you into some like politics or something? Like the next Keir Starmer, miss." I'm like, "Oh my goodness."
Miss is wearing fair gold chains, bruv.
And then he was like, no, jokes aside, miss. So like, how did you do it? Like, how did you go from being a teacher to being like that? And I was just like, then I had to start explaining to them. Obviously, they're not young like that anymore. They've all obviously, as you get older, they get older, and they've all progressed in their careers. And it's just funny. I was surprised that they recognized me. That was first, and which made me feel like, okay, that means I'm not aging as fast. But it's but yeah, I just sort of like told them that, you know, it's about having a desire and a passion for your community, and I now gave him an example of me coming back into this area and seeing that things are so different, and it just made me feel like some of the councillors in our area need to sit up. And I was like, maybe you should step in and become a counsellor. Like, this is where you've been all your life, and you know you're gonna have your kids in this area clearly because you haven't moved out yet. And he's like, no, that he's not moving up from this area. I'm thinking, so this could be a great opportunity for you to get into, you know, get into government, get into politics. You don't have to go too deep. You can just be a counsellor, but you know, just having that face. And there's so many young people that you have moved with across the years that see you and they're like, oh my God, that's my brethren, you know, and I know him. And having that voice in the community, I think it's really powerful, and just know that you can make a change, especially if it's someone that you've grown up and you're very used to. So he was like, oh miss, I think I'm going to look into that, you know, I think I'm going to look into that. And I felt quite inspired, like I felt that I had inspired him. Whether he's gone off to do it, I don't know, but just having that 5 to 10 minute conversation with him, just what you just said, it just struck me, and it just made me feel like, yeah, it's true, because they look at you, and no matter how young or big they are, they could be 18, and they will just remember you. Like some of the young people that you work with at school, Alan, you know, in 5 years from now, and they'll be like, I want to be a deputy mayor or a mayor because, you know, Alan did it. Exactly. And so it's cool, and they like Alan at school because I'm a governor at the school where Alan's
Amazing.
at. So I do hear a lot of what they say about you. They're like, oh, they don't call you Alan though, do they? They call you something else.
Well, that's a long story.
Okay. Would you like to add to that?
Well, they call me Steve.
Steve. Oh, okay.
Because right at the beginning of my time there, they tried to find out what my name was, and I just pulled a random name out of the air and said it was Steve, and so it stuck. And they all know I'm called something different, but my nickname there is Steve.
It's Steve, yeah.
So it's but I'm also they like to call me Mayor now as well.
Aww.
Right, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, all right, Mr. Mayor. Well, if it's any consolation, my little brother is called Alejandro, but my son Avery can't say that. Well, he couldn't, so he just called him Jack. I was like, who's Jack?
We really tried to figure it out.
We was like, no, he's Jack. So now the whole family calls this poor child Jack. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the name Jack, but it's nowhere near Alejandro. So we're like, you right, Jack? Yeah. And he literally refers to himself as Jack. So, all right, Steve.
Okay, I think I'm going to go on to the questions. So these are some questions that some of our young people came up with when I said that we were doing this. What's your biggest aim with Basildon?
Well, personally, obviously, it's not a one-man thing. It's something that you have to do collectively as the council, the community, the councillors, the officers. Everyone has to get involved. Obviously, I don't want to go too deep because they may not understand the structure. But if it was for me personally, I would love a Basildon where there is a lot of youth presence. I want, because I've always said that as much as there are older people living in Basildon, and yes, it's a place for everyone, but the younger generation, they're growing up so fast, and there's so much that's happening right now that can influence them. And if we do not take control and seize that power to stir them in the right direction, it could be detrimental for not just Basildon, but for every other city, because young people, they're very impressionable, and whatever you put out there, they would swallow it up, take it in. And if you're not putting out positivity, if you're not putting out career opportunities and telling them that you can do this, and you know, just because school says that, you know, the pay bracket is like 30 grand a year, no, you can actually earn way more than that. There are so many technical opportunities, there's engineering opportunities, and the funny thing is that a lot of these young people, they do show these skills in their day-to-day. You see one young child just sitting in the corner fixing something, and they just love to fix. And a lot of adults, we tend to overlook these little interests, and we could actually build on those interests. So you love to fix, let's go to would you like STEM is really great, and there's so much skill development that can happen in these little fields. And I want to see a Basildon that's like that, a Basildon that's not just inclusive for the minority, but inclusive for young people. I don't particularly, of course there is racism, but it's not something that I like to focus on. I like to focus on how we're all one, because kindness is paramount, and with kindness so much can be solved, so much problems can be solved. And it's just about understanding that I am me, you are you, Alan is Alan. But if we create opportunities where every child has the same amount of opportunities, I think Basildon will be such a powerful, it's already a powerful town, but if we can take advantage of the opportunities that are here and create more opportunities for young people to take advantage of the current opportunities, I think that will be a Basildon that, I would love to even leave my kids to stay here and, get older until they decide to move on. So that's personally for me, Alan.
Yeah. Nice.
Good luck topping that one. Yeah.
When I became a counsellor 22 years ago, I was a postman, and I was delivering mail, obviously, across the borough. And some of the areas I saw were really quite run down, and a lot of deprivation. Nappies being left in the street. Paraphernalia of a certain kind being seen on the corners of the streets. And when the chance came to become a counsellor, I took it with both hands, because I want to see a stronger, more economic, stronger borough where equality is present and there's less deprivation, and those poor families or that are currently living in that kind of situation. I feel like I want to see a Basildon where there's more economic, more comfortable living there. That is why I became a counsellor, is because I want to see those areas gone. I want to see places where we are living in comfort, we're living where those bad issues are eradicated, really.
I definitely agree with that. I think on both parts, really, you both kind of touched upon like the skill set, and when we talk about paraphernalia and we talk about how people are really trying to survive to make money. Now, I don't condone it, absolutely don't condone it in terms of people taking up illegal activity. But if you've got a kid that's shot in and running his business, that could be a really, really good businessman. If you've got someone that's growing something, at the end of the day, they've got the skills, horticultural skills, to maybe become the next farmer to bring produce into this community. So I don't write them off and I don't judge them. I just think that they're being misled, and they're using the opportunities, the only opportunity that they have. But there's nothing to say that actually they can't be running their own empire and their own business and their own thing in a legitimate way. But it's the survival, isn't it? And I think if we can provide more opportunities and pull people out of deprivation and work from the bottom up with small organisations like this and other organisations, I think the more that we inject into the organisations that are reaching the people, that relate to the people, I definitely think that we've got more scope to build that trust with them as well, because I think there's that big thing of, like, these kids, they'll ask you these questions and they'll tell you what their struggles are. But then what are we going to do with that information? It's all good to have a dream and it's all good to have a vision, but what are we going to absolutely, what are we going to do with that? I mean, we could tell you about our traumatic experiences all day, but then what? We've just shared.
The good thing is that you have organisations like Flex that are working with each child, like you're doing it one child at a time. And what I'm not saying that you may underestimate your organisation, but what you don't realise that your organisation is doing, that it seems small now, but in the next 5 to 10 years, there are going to be so many more children that have come into this organization and they have found a place for themselves, like you said, whether it's through representation of dolls or the music studios. Like, Flex is very much in line with what I actually wanted to start when I became a counsellor. So when you were talking, I don't know if you noticed, I was smiling so much. I'm thinking, I think me and this young lady are definitely on the same wavelength in terms of like thinking and creativity and opportunities for young people. And there's something that you just said that was very important, because I've also said this quite a few times in the past. And young people, especially young boys, they want to tackle this knife crime. They want to tackle this drugs and all of that. It's really not hard. Young boys that are on the street, they just want to make money. They want to make money and they feel a sense of responsibility. You know, some of them come from single parent homes. Some of them come from both families are there, but both families are always out working. So there's no one there to give them direction, and they have younger siblings and they feel that there is a need, an instant need when you become a boy or a man, that I need to provide for my younger sibling. I don't want my mum stressing. My mum's always snapping. It's not everything that I ask for my mum that she can provide for me. And it's not to blame the parents, although they do have a role to play in that. But it's not to blame them entirely, because if they're not working, who's going to provide for these kids? But you see that young boy that is bringing in that money. Imagine there were opportunities whereby, okay, you're obviously good at marketing. You're obviously good at selling product. Why don't you take up a foundation or a diploma course in marketing, sponsored, or I don't know, funded, or I think that's the word, fully funded, and then put them into like apprenticeship opportunities or something where they can use those skills to actually make a legit income, build their credit and start something for themselves. It's all about using those skills that we classify as bad and, you know, bringing them into the actual civilized community and allowing them to grow those skills and make something of it. And that's why when you said it, I was smiling so hard, because I was thinking, I've said this before, finally something actually
people get it.
When I say it, sometimes I feel like people just don't understand what I'm talking about. It's the same thing about girls that love makeup from such a young age, and they wear it to school and they want to do everyone's makeup. Why don't you just get her into, like, Mac has all these opportunities for young people to like get on board, and there's so many things that you could do with all these little skills and talents that they sort of like portray in a not so positive way. You can like change that negative into a positive, and you're indirectly changing a young person's life. Yeah.
So we have black and brown dolls, like faces, so that the girls can practice makeup, and the boys, so that people can practice doing makeup on different types of skin because that could be a career one day. There's so many apprenticeship opportunities that they can get. We actually offer apprenticeships when we have the funds to pay for the apprenticeships, you know, for the hours that are required. We've got some young people that are on apprenticeships, but it's just that thing of, you know, when they ask, we do need to listen, and there's a cost of living going on, you know, and parents have to work all day, all night. Otherwise, they're going to have to choose between whether they're going to put their lights on or their heating on, or, you know, school shoes or this and that and the other. And I can see the added responsibility for these young people, and that's why they come and they eat with us. So when they're eating with us every session, they were here today. It was the Sunshine Kitchen, but they just wanted to be out and about. But they come and they sit down and they're having dinner with people, with trusted adults, where they can be inspired and they can have these conversations that actually they might not be able to have with their parents. One of the young people had a certificate. We don't know as to whether or not her parents would have been home or not. They may or may not have done, but at least she got to share that celebration with us. So
it's just like second family to them.
Of course, it's family. It's family. It's they're consistent.
You're working with one child at a time. You don't realise how much you're pouring into this child, and for them to keep coming back here, it means they see this place as a safe space. They see this as their own community.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And like, just to add as well, like, I feel like with boys like trapping for money and stuff, it is sometimes, or a lot of the time, because they're economically deprived. But I also do think that there is a sort of like immediate gratification with it, because I'm like, let's be real, sometimes they're spending it on like shoes that they don't need, and they have them in towers. And I think that's why the one-on-ones are really important, because I think they put a lot of their self-esteem and their identity in like materialistic things. And so when they're made to like stop doing illegal activities, they become almost like a shell of themselves, and they're very insecure. Yeah, so I think that's why we do really try to build relationships with them. It is hard because young people, they'll talk to you when they want to talk to you, and when they don't want to talk to you, they won't talk to you.
Yep.
but yeah, I think it is very important. And so what you were saying as well, I used to live on an estate and it was being redone. So like half of it was really, really old and shattered glass everywhere, kind of the broken windows theory in real life. And then half of it was new. And the way it played out was so interesting to me. It was like the crime and the antisocial behaviour, it really only existed on the side that wasn't redone. I don't know if... it was so odd. Like, I would literally watch it because my house was literally on the line. Like, it was next to be redone, sort of. But it was so interesting to see, and it really shows that your environment, your surroundings can really impact your behaviour, if that makes sense. Like... I don't litter, but if I was to, I wouldn't litter in like a really nice place where, you know, there's nothing there. But if there's like loads of rubbish everywhere, you might just feel inclined to, you know,
make it worse.
Toss and look away. What advice would you give to your younger self?
I used to be quite shy when I was in my late teens, and I'd probably say to myself, be more confident, and to make your voice heard. In the right way, obviously, not going shouting in people's faces. That'd be bananas, wouldn't it? But it'd be, it's like, make sure you get your opinion heard. Make sure you speak out. Make sure you speak up for the things you believe in. And, don't sit back and just be an observer too much. It's good to observe sometimes, but when I was young, I used to sit back and watch everyone else do lots of things, and I'd sort of tag along. But nowadays it's a bit different. As years go by, you get a bit older and wiser and a bit more confident. So I think that's probably what I'd say to myself.
For me, I'd say just relax. And I say that because I've always been an ambitious person, right, from when I was young. I've always kind of like known what I wanted to do. So I was always very careful. I never really listened to peer pressure. And it's because I already knew, I didn't know I was going to go this far, but I knew that I was going to be very ambitious. So I am very ambitious, and I know I'm going to be very successful, and I know I've always been destined for success. I just don't know how I'm going to get there. Right. So because I already had that, and I had already sort of like manifested that into my reality by speaking it to myself all the time. Every time people told me something, like my email address is, even it's got Queen Ambitious, and every time I used to go I love that, people used to be like, oh, that's an interesting email, I love your email address. And I would say just keep speaking positivity. And I know a lot of people may not be spiritual or religious, but I just believe that whatever you put into the universe, it kind of like does come back. And if you keep telling yourself that I can do this, I will make it, I will be successful, I will succeed, you will just see things just gravitate towards you. And another thing I'd say to my younger self is align yourself with people that are in alignment with what you want. So I always wanted to be successful, so I was very conscious to make sure I was amongst successful people. When I became a counsellor, I first met Counsellor Jack Ferguson. I didn't even know who he was. I had looked online and I was like, how do I become a counsellor? So I just said, I'm just going to go to one of these leafleting sessions. And the first conversation I had with Jack was, he was like, oh, so, what's next after this? Like, why are you here? I just said to him, I want to be a counsellor. And he was like, oh, you're very straight to the point. And then I said to him, how can I become a counsellor? And he said, this is how you become a counsellor. And I made sure I did it. I moved around with people that I knew could get me to where I need to be. When I speak to people, I make sure I'm speaking to people that can help me get to the next step. if I want to do leadership programs, I will speak to people that have done leadership programs or are in leadership, and then pick their brains. So a lot of my friends are actually way older than I am. I'm probably the youngest in the group, and I like that because I feel like they've lived and they've made mistakes that I would have made. I'm not saying don't make mistakes, because your mistakes do shape you, but at the same time, you have to make smart mistakes, if that makes sense. Not a mistake that's going to be detrimental to whatever you're thinking of becoming. Like, you don't want to become a successful politician in the future and they're digging up some very, very disturbing dirt about you and your team. Conscious, I don't do certain things. I not like I'm fake or I'm rigid. No, I'm not. I'm very much myself. Like, I'm Tory. Like, I'm transparent. What you see with me is what you get. But again, I'm very conscious and I'm very intentional about everything that I want to do. So a younger me, I would say, just relax. Everything will fall into place. Just keep manifesting positivity into your life, and everything will be fine.
Wow, that was very inspiring. And then a very similar question, but like, what advice would you give to just Basildon kids in general?
Well, you're the future, and you need. I would say that, you know, as I would say to any of my children, I would say you can do anything. Be confident. The world's your oyster. Make sure that you know what your dreams are. You know what your ambitions are. But make sure that you can, you know, within yourself what direction you're going, and just go for it. Me, you know, as I said many moons ago, I was a postman, which is great. It's fantastic. But I decided, in later stage in life, in my 30s, to get a degree, and I got a degree in politics at University of East London, and I from there I worked for a number of MPs and became a councillor, and now I'm a mayor. So it was, make sure, if I hadn't realised that 10 years earlier, that would have been a good thing. But I would say to young people now, if you've got a dream, go for it. Be confident, because you can get there. Look at what has happened to me. So
with me, I'd say focus. Find your focus. Reflection. I say that because, and also have a plan, have a goal, have a plan A and have a plan B. I say this because when you find your focus and you know what your heart wants, not what everybody else is telling you. So when I work with young people, when I do my one-to-ones with, let's say, family members for now, I always ask them, let's just give her a name, Chloe. What does Chloe want? What are the things? I'll say, write a list of all the things that make Chloe happy. When you look at things that possibly make money, what out of all these things make you happy? What is it that you want? You find your focus, and then I sort of like do, what's this thing called? You know when you do like those bubbles?
Mind map. Yeah.
And I say, okay, now let's put all the things together that will make this focus, you know, bring it to fruition. And then from there you find your plan, like your goal. This is my goal. So this is your focus and this is your goal. So for example, my little sister, she wants to do medicine. She's always wanted to do medicine. So her focus is medicine. What type of medicine? So we've been able to narrow medicine into medicine. Now we've done a lot of speech bubbles or the mind maps. Mm-hmm. How can we get you to achieve this? So her goal now is to get into a good university where she can study medicine. What is your goal? Your plan A and your plan B. So now she's working on plan A and she's focused on plan A. Her wallpaper is doctor. So every time she touches her phone, she sees the doctor kit. And she knows this is what I need to do. When she unlocks her phone, she has daily reminders. You can do this. You're going to be the best doctor. This is what you need to do. She has flashcards. It's just about focus. When you find that focus and you believe in yourself, you get acquainted with people, you talk about what you want to be. So let's say you have a child in here that loves makeup. What type of makeup artist do you want to be? And then you expose them to that type of environment and you do a mind map. How can we get you to be the best? Is there opportunities like, for example, the carnival? Is it Pitsy Carnival that we went to?
Yeah.
That's a great opportunity to get a young person that loves makeup into that, because all the queens, the little queens and princesses, people do their makeup. So that's a great way to build their portfolio, and that could potentially open up so many more opportunities in Basildon and outside of Basildon. Do you see what I mean? So it's all about focus with me. I would say to young people now, find your focus, believe in yourself, and then follow your dream. And then it kind of links into what Alan was saying about confidence. Our messages are kind of like the same. It's just that he's used his example of, you know, being a postman, which is actually very inspiring. I was actually going to clap for you when you were talking. Because that is a very inspiring message. To go from that to that, it just means there at some point in your life, Alan, you told yourself, I can do this. And even though I'm this shy person, but it takes a lot of willpower to break out of your shyness and go for it. Because being a mayor, he has to give a lot of speeches. And he speaks well. And then he's an English teacher, and you're working with young people that are very mouthy. Young people are very mouthy, so
got a lot to say, sometimes too much.
To get to the point that you are, it's because you had a focus. You had a focus and you believed in yourself. And I think it's all about, I mean, Flex started because you had a focus. You had a plan A and you had a plan B. If I don't start Flex by this time, I need to start it by this time. This is my aims and this is my objectives. It's about focus. Everything in life is focus. So that's my message to you, beautiful young people. Focus.
I just want to say thank you for coming and joining us on this podcast. I think exactly what you guys were saying in terms of, you know, the focus and believing in your dreams and actually giving it a go. And I think if more people, it's like, speak to yourself like you would speak to your best friend, you know, and be that voice. Like you would cheer your best friend on, you know, and you would, and I think if more people put that together and believed in their dreams and really, really went for it, that's the only reason that I'm here in this building right now, because I had to, you know. Sorry, go on.
I just remembered something else I was supposed to say. Reflection. That's something that I taught myself when I was younger. I think a lot of people use it now, but what I tended to do when I was younger was, at the end of every day, I'd spend 5 or 10 minutes reflecting. I had a diary. I used
like
to
a journal kind of thing, yeah.
And I would write and reflect. Like I would literally talk to myself. What did I do today? What went well? What could I have done better? How did I interact with this person? Was I kind? Was I polite? Do you think this person got my message across properly? Like there are times when I've gone to networking events and I come home and I think about the networking. It's not like you're beating yourself up, but you're almost having an honest, discussion with yourself and saying, oh, I think I could have introduced myself a bit better. And then I'd go online and I'd look for more professional ways and confident ways to introduce it. When you reflect, you're having a very honest conversation with yourself, and then there is this desire to want to be better. And it's not like you're pushing yourself too hard, but you're beating yourself up. No, you're not criticizing yourself too much, but you're just being honest. You know, and that's one thing about criticism. When you come into like politics or anyone that's successful, they always get a lot of like negative criticism. And the reason why I feel a lot of people cannot tackle that very well is because they're not having true conversations with themselves. When you identify your own problems and you accept your problems, when other people highlight it to you, it doesn't bother you as much, because you know you're doing something about it, or you know that you're aware of it. But when you're in denial and you're not reflecting, when people say and highlight your problems, it feels like a personal attack, and then it kind of like shakes you. I don't know if you understand.
I completely understand. It's that idea of I like to take accountability for my part in any situation, whether it's me telling off my children and I think, right, could I have handled that better, or why did my child get annoyed? And in the workplace as well. And I think it's all about learning, and especially in terms of self-reflection, how could I have done this better? I think they're not losses, they're lessons, you know. And it's just that idea of actually being able to look internally. If I can do that with chess, then nothing's a surprise when it comes at me, because I'm aware that that's something that I want to work on, or that's something that I'm good at as well. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, well actually, how is that strength? I'm very, very chatty. How is that a strength as opposed to that being a weakness? And how can I channel that in terms of, okay, then maybe I'm really good at networking, maybe I'm really good at pitching things and here and there. So it's about looking at where that can be a strength as opposed to a hindrance, but not being oblivious to these parts. But you've given us a lot of things to think about, and I definitely think there's just so much more conversation that we'll have, and we definitely want to get you guys back on to another podcast episode, and to chat with young people as well. I think it's really, really inspiring what you're doing. We are honoured that you've come and spent this time with us to come and chat with us and just share these pearls of wisdom that you have, and just, I think we've got lots of little people that, my son wants to be the mayor of Flex, so we might get him to listen to this. He's going to be so gutted that I've come here and that you guys are here. I didn't even have the heart to tell him, but he's going to be so gutted. But yeah, we'll you guys can meet him sometime. But yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah, we really appreciate it. And
really enjoyed being here.
Thank you.
Conversation.
Thank you so much.
Anything that concerns young people always gets me so giddy. I'm just like, oh.
We've got the right people in the right places. I think you guys are. Yeah, you guys got this. You guys got this. This is great. Thank you. So thank you for having us. I don't know if you've got any lasting words.
No.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.